to welcome everybody to the webinar Emerging Non-Native English Speaker Teacher Leaders. Where do we begin? By Professor Doa Rashid, who's gonna go ahead and get us started. I will mute myself. If everybody can, please mute yourselves as well. Feel free to keep your camera on or off, and then we will listen to Doa and then come back together for a Q&A at the end. Okay, here we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to, can you see the full screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Doa Rashid. In Arabic, it's Doa. I am an associate teaching professor in the English department at Rutgers University. I'm director of the Language Engagement Project and co-director of the Language and Social Justice Initiative. And I'm co-leading an initiative on the Year of Languages at the School of Humanities at Rutgers as well this year. My experience with TESOL started in 2007. I served in the local TESOL, affiliate TESOL here in Maryland for since 2007 until 2014, actually until 2015. And after that, I joined TESOL, the international, and I was past chair of the NNEST-IS in 2020. A little bit about myself. I consider myself to be a translingual, transnational language educator. I have been in the field, now I'm going to tell you my age, since 1995. That's my first year of teaching in Egypt. Before joining Rutgers, I was a director of the MA TESOL program and co-director of the TESOL teacher professional training programs at University of Maryland. I've taught courses in IE, academic and research writing, ESOL teaching methods, teaching grammar and pronunciation, second language acquisition, assessment, evaluation, and cross-cultural communication, among others. My publications usually focus on teaching methods, language and social justice, leadership in TESOL, and mentoring transnational professionals and language leadership identity. And my research interests are focused on teacher professional identity, mentoring emerging bilingual leaders, intersectionality of transnationalism, multilingualism, and identity and leadership identity in TESOL. So this quick overview of who I am, well, I wanted to impress you. That's one thing. But also, I wanted you to start thinking about how you would put a slide like this about yourself. And then remember all these things about who you are and what you're doing. And I remember the first time I put this draft a few years ago, I thought I wouldn't have anything to put in there. And I realized every time I meet somebody and I listen to what they have to say about themselves, oh yeah, I did this before. Why didn't I put that in my resume? Or why don't I tell people this is what I do? And that's how you start building a profile of who you are when you meet someone and they ask you who you are. And you can start right away, with the few sentences that you have, this is me, I work in this job, this is what my title is. But then you dig deep into what is it that you do and why it is valuable to you and to the community where you are. So keep that in mind as we continue with our session. The purpose of this webinar is to explore strategies to developing a leadership identity as an emerging NNEST leader. Christina and I talked about the word NNEST, and I prefer the word transnationals because I feel that it includes many qualities and characteristics and features that we have beyond what language is our first language. Experiences that we have had in other countries that we bring to the US or in our countries and to bring to other countries, experiences that we learned from working with diverse student population, and that's our students. I learn about students in Cuba, about people in Cuba from my student who is from Cuba. I learn about people in South Africa from a student from South Africa, and so on and so forth. It is a webinar, so I be talking a little bit more than asking you to engage in things, but I do have a timeline or an outline of what I would like for you to start doing. So if you have a piece of paper and a pen, please try to, jot down some of the ideas that I would share and ask you to do so that you can see the progress of what you're doing as this mock or example of what you do to build strategies into developing as a leader. Minority leaders, and that includes us in the workplace, that's coming from the literature, usually face challenges related to racism, discrimination, lack of support, and stereotype. And usually you find leaders in most fields are white males, with some exceptions, but the majority are white males. For non-native English speakers, be that in the TESOL field or in other fields, the added discrimination because of the linguistic diversity that we have and the cultural stereotypes that people have had about different groups over the years because of media, political events, sometimes bad experiences, tend to be added challenges that we have to face especially when we try to pursue leadership roles. The way I see it is that as long as you're working hard and you're teaching in your classroom and your students are happy with you, nobody will have a problem with that. You're doing the job. But once you start thinking, well, I have the right to climb the ladder, to be recognized for the extra work that I'm doing. I have ambition to be something bigger than where I am right now. I would like to explore different experiences, do professional development, give a webinar, give a training, give a talk at a conference. I would like to be recognized for that as an emerging leader. That's when all those stereotypes and challenges come to place. Of course, that's not the case all the time. I can't say that everyone who had the same experience, but even those who have reached that point of becoming at the top, it wasn't easy all the time. To be able to cultivate a leadership identity and capacity, whether that be in your home country, or if you cross borders and you move to another country, one should be able to construct, construe, and self-author, as well as articulate a leadership identity. So if you were to ask yourself, what does leadership mean to you? And what is your vision of what you do as a leader? What is it that you would like to accomplish? What impact do you would like to see in the workplace that you make? What is your legacy? Think about if you were to receive an email from somebody thanking you for helping them out. What would they help you out with? What would this help be like? Did you help them apply to graduate school? Did you help them by, teaching them how to teach? If they are struggling to teach, listening skills, for example, did you help them by having this conversation of, tell me what's going on? How can I help you? Just, reflect with me on your professional development. Anything that you would like to see in that email, that is your legacy. That's what you want to see people thanking you for. And that's what you should be aiming to achieve. When we look at the literature in modern teacher leadership, not TESOL, it had gone through three waves. The first wave was in the early 80s, and that's when the teacher's role, in addition to teaching, there were some managerial roles added to the teacher. The teachers, when they become senior teachers, they may become department heads, they may become mentor teachers, they may have become the master teachers. In my school context in Egypt, this was the tenure teacher, and it was usually after 5 years of teaching. After 5 years of teaching, 5 years of excellent or very good teacher evaluation at the end of the years, the teacher will automatically be assigned the role of being a senior teacher. And then they would be automatically expected to guide the new teachers in the school. The guidance usually was to make sure that the work is done right. So if I were to be a new teacher, my senior teacher would look at my lesson plans, that I have them on time, that I grade all my those students' assignments on time, that I enter the grades on time, that I keep records so that, if we have a committee coming to audit the school, they will have everything in order. It wasn't really about the relationship between the two of us as much as it was about making sure that the work is done right. Gradually in the 90s, this idea changed toward from managerial to more of a direction of pedagogy. So the value that senior teachers or more advanced teachers, experienced teachers bring to the profession is not just because they have done all the paperwork or the files for the teaching, no, but because they have experience in instruction, curriculum development, team leading, and agents of change. And I joined the training when I was in Egypt that was for agents of change. And I was one of those who was called agents of change. I didn't know at the time that there was a thing in the literature. I just knew that this was my title. And I would be asked to do certain activities in the school because I was one of those out in my school district. Gradually, that again changed, and the focus more became on training, collaborative activities. Teachers viewed, or experienced teachers viewed as assisting, encouraged to assist colleagues with professional development activities, with mentoring, solving problems. So you're no longer, teachers are no longer, helping with one task at a time. No, it became a holistic experience that a mentor and a mentee will have with each other. That's when the TESOL field became more attuned of what it is all about. At the beginning, as a new field, we were focusing on instruction, preparing teachers, helping students, again, getting everything done right. But then gradually we matured as a field and we started thinking about what is it that we are trying to accomplish? What is our legacy? What is our impact as a field on our students and on our teachers? And at the time, the third wave was going on. TESOL teachers became recognized as emerging leaders. So we joined where it was, you have to be everything for your mentee. You have to do this because you are a leader. There are so many activities that you engage in as a leader. And that's when we started looking at becoming, what does it mean to become a leader? Becoming a leader and developing a leadership identity is not a one-time thing. It's not a title that you get, and it's not a job description. Because even with that, with a title and job description, the expectations from you as a leader tended to be beyond what is written in the job description. You're expected to guide others, which means that you have the wisdom to guide them, be that in their teaching, but also in their professional development. You look at your teachers, if you are, in a leadership role, and you think about how can I help this teacher be a better person next year, be a better teacher 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What are their goals and how can I assess to them? And that usually does not come in the job description, but gradually as a leader, you find yourself doing these things. So it's a journey that takes dedication, persistence, and mindfulness. It just doesn't happen overnight. Reflection usually is your key here. Reflection leads to being mindful. And when one is mindful, one is able to choose their tasks, articulate them very well, be purposeful and intentional of what they do in their career to become leaders. Generally, in the literature, there are some valued leadership practices that when one pursues those practices, one is recognized as a leader. Collaboration is one of them. You don't work alone in vacuum. Listening and employing effective communication skills. You're not the only voice in the room. Other people have voices. Building relationships and people network. You want to have people that support you, people that you trust, people that understand your work, people that can help you improve, and individuals that you can just tell them what's going on with your life and they can correct you as well. Provide service to the community, be that community within your school or outside of the school. And that includes also joining the TESOL organization and other organizations in your countries. Encouraging others to become better. Modeling and acting as a role model. If I want my teachers, my novice teachers to be able to be good teachers in the classroom, then I should be a good teacher in the classroom. I can't be just talking about being a teacher in the good teacher in the classroom. using influence to benefit others. So you, after say 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the profession, you start building a strong network. And then you have individuals who need your help. You can help them through your connections. And that's one way to becoming a leader. Mentoring others to becoming leaders, having a vision and continuing to learn. These are qualities that usually are viewed as valued leadership practices. Remember that leadership is more than a title and role. People become leaders by internalizing leadership identity and developing a sense of purpose. And that's usually based on the extent to which they define themselves as leaders. I'm a leader in my school. This is my definition. I want to be a better teacher. I want to help incoming teachers be better in their teaching practices. This is my vision of a leader, and that's fine. Someone else's vision of a leader is somebody who actually goes to the community, building community projects, helping parents of non-native speakers of English at least understand some of the school language, for example, translate documents for the community, advocate for students and their parents. So your vision of what leader is defines what your leadership practices would look like. There are 6 stages of leadership identity development, and I will show you these 6 stages, and I would like for you to look at them and choose which one or ones you feel you are at. You could be at 4 or 5, you could be at 3 and 4, or bouncing back and forth between these 2 or 3. So take a minute to look at these 6 stages and think about where are you in your thinking about leadership. Did you just develop an awareness? Are you actually exploring and engaging in some leadership roles? Are you really identified as a leader? Do you know what leadership means? Do you know the differences between different leadership types and what leadership is and isn't in terms of individual or community? Are you committed to developing leadership in others already? Are you doing this, or you think it's a good idea, but you haven't done it yet? Are you thinking about, are you acknowledging that the personal capacity of leadership in diverse contexts and claim the identity as a leader without having to hold a positional role? Are you a teacher, but you're doing so many leadership roles that are not in your job title, and your community recognizes you as a leader? To which one you are. I don't want you to tell me if you feel comfortable putting this in the chat, that'll be great. If not, just put it down so that you know, you can think of where you are and then moving forward where you would like to be. That could be your starting point in thinking. Okay. So emerging as a leader and developing a leadership identity and being mindful means that we need to understand who we are. We need to understand where we are going. What is your direction? And then what would we become? Because one can be going into a direction of what they identified as a leadership role or a leadership practice that after 5 years doing this, it's not really clear to you what you are doing, or you don't think that this is what you wanted from the beginning. So before stepping into that direction, knowing the direction is one thing, knowing what we want to be, the direction to being that person is one thing, but examining what this will be when it happens is something really important. You might want to be the president of the TESOL organization, which is great. And there are many channels to becoming that president of the TESOL organization. But are you, by the time you achieve this, will you have the time to complete the tasks? Will you be in a place in your career where you are interested in doing this? This may be a dream now, but if you invest in that dream the next 5 years or 7 years, and by the time it comes, you're no longer interested in doing this, this is an investment that is wasted. And of course, vice versa, you could be investing this time and energy in something that you really would like to be 7 years from now. To become a leader, one has to have core values, guiding principles, and know what their impact is. And we talked about impact earlier. So thinking about your values and guiding principles. What are your values, core values, and what are your guiding principles? And when you think about these two, always keep in mind what kind of impact you want to have. I've always thought that I want to do this and do this and do this. But then in the past couple of years, I have been thinking that I also would like to be remembered as being a kind person, as being someone who pauses and understands where people are coming from. Why are they behaving in that way? And that is not easy. I talk a lot. My culture, we're very vocal in Egypt. And that doesn't give much space for listening. So it's something to remember to do and practice. And be kind to myself by thinking, okay, I should have listened more to this person. That was wrong. How can I fix this? So that could be something to keep in mind. What is the kind of impact that you would like to have? And what are the core values and guiding principles that will allow you to achieve that impact? So I will share with you some core values. And what I would like you to do is to choose 5 from this list. And maybe even you have something else. And at the end, I added what else. But think about the 5 that you are the most important to you. Like speak highly to you, who you are. That doesn't mean that the others are not as important, but you are, choosing 5 for now. Okay. Now I'm going to move to guiding principles. Again, choose 5 of those guiding principles that you think are more important to you and to who you are as a leader. Now, what would be, once that you have your core values and you have your guiding principles, the things that you strongly believe that no matter what, you will not deviate from, no matter what, you will not be something else from this. I'm not saying you can't be flexible, but core values should not change. Circumstances change, yes, but core values shouldn't. So once you have these and you start thinking about where do I want to be now as a leader? Now I have my core values. I have my guiding principles that will help me, again, practice those core values. What is it that I can do to become the kind of leader that I would like to be? First thing would be establishing goals, taking stock, identifying barriers and challenges, and then devising scaffolding and executing a plan. So let's start with establishing goals. I would ask you to list 3 to 5 professional leadership goals and use measurable verbs, meaning that you can say, I would like to become a president of. This is the end goal. No, what want in between goals? Could be publishing more, publishing 2 articles next year, presenting in the TESOL convention in 2024, collaborating on a project with a colleague in X country or in the United States or in my own country. Establish those 3 to 5 professional leadership goals. Now, are these goals connected to your core values and guiding principles? Again, they can't be different from this. If they are completely different from what your core values are, if they are the exact opposite, then you need to go back and re-examine your core values. because your core values will affect all the choices that you make. Now, taking stock. Now you have your goals. I would like to do 1, 2, 3. Taking stock means you know what you know and identify what you know and realize what you don't. So when I do this, I think about what are my strengths that will allow me to achieve these goals. If we were to say, engage with colleagues or collaborate with colleagues from different countries on X project. I have an idea and I would like to work with 2 or 3 colleagues from different countries. What are my strengths here? I have access to this listserv for the NNEST-IS. I go to the TESOL convention, so I know that there I will meet people from those countries and I can look for their names and their presentations, to go to their presentations, see if there are people from those countries interested in the same topic. I basically introduce my idea to them. I join different, different webinars. Usually TESOL convention at TESOL International has many webinars throughout the year, or the TESOL affiliate where you are. I go to those webinars and listen to them, and I pick the ones that are related to the topic that I'm interested in. And when I go, I realize that I meet people who are interested in the same topic. So these are things that I have access to. Not everyone has access to all of these things, but now I do. Then my idea, my goal is closer to being accomplished. And then what do I know about the topic? Is this topic that I like, but I don't know much about? Well, if that's the case, what can I do to increase that knowledge in this? What kind of skills? I can do PowerPoint. I wanted that on my own. I can do writing. I do editing. I'm an editor for the TESOL journal, TESOL Quarterly. I can do these skills that will be useful for the goals to be achieved. What leadership experiences do I have? Have I done this? Have I collaborated with others in different contexts before? If I haven't, then what can I do for me to understand this type of collaboration? And what I can do could be something as easy as picking a presentation at a conference that has multiple collaborators from different countries and going to sit at their presentation, see how these people built a project together. They live in different time zones. How did they build the project together? How did they execute that project? And now they are presenting it. So it's not a question about the content. It's a question about the strategies that they had to utilize in order for them to make this collaboration project successful. After taking stocks, one has to identify challenges. So your challenges in any pursuit can be challenges that are in your control, challenges that are out of your control. And that's when I start talking, go back to what does it mean to be a non-native speaker of English in an English world, basically. Even in our own countries, where English is the additional language or the foreign language or the second language. In our countries, English is the dominant language in our field. They have to speak the language. We expect our students to speak the language, even if we allow them to use the first language multiple times, but this is just to help them build their confidence. Eventually, you want them to excel in the target language. So what does it mean to be a non-native speaker? Eventually, there will be situations where your non-nativeness will be challenged, will be taken against you. I went to a conference not too long time ago, and the one country was looking to hire ESL instructors full-time. And they had on their job ad, native speakers of English. Not only this, they listed the countries where you have to have been born and raised, have your education, not higher education, just all your education in one of those 5 countries to be eligible to apply for the job. And that was at a TESOL field, by the way. Like, it was not a conference that was not in the education. It was the education who was teaching English to non-native speakers. And the country asking for this, for doing this hiring, felt that was okay to vote that. There is no law against this. We understand how unethical that is, but they could do that. This is something that would always be against non-native speakers if in that context, the individuals or the organizations or the institutions have that mindset that non-native speakers are less qualified for the jobs, just because they are not native speakers. You can't change their mindset. But as a non-native speaker, it is our responsibility to change the discourse, to change the rhetoric. What does it mean to be a non-native speaker? It means that I learn another language. Not only that I learn the language, I actually teach it. I studied using it. It became my language of instruction. I can communicate with people who don't speak my language using that language. Not only can I speak to people who speak English, I can also communicate with people from different countries because English is the language that we share or we understand together. So it is a strength. And if we continue to address our non-nativeness as a weakness or a deficit, it will always be a deficit. Other people, I can't change other people's mind. But what I can do is to put the argument out there so that people, when they read, they don't just read about how non-native speakers are not suitable or are not as good. No, they read both arguments and then they can choose. The world is full of other people with biases all the time, and we can change them, but we have to explain. That's the key thing. So identify your challenges, identify what you can overcome and what you just have to let go of, and then think about how a reasonable timeline to overcome these challenges. So let's say that my challenge is that I would like to collaborate on a project, but I don't with people from different countries, that identify the countries, but I don't know many people in those countries. So how can I overcome this challenge? Maybe I know one person that I can reach out. Maybe I can know Christina and I can reach out to Christina and give her my idea. And then Christina, I'm not putting you on the spot just because you're on the screen. I reached out to this colleague and with my idea and say, well, I'm really looking for someone in this country and I would like to work with them. I feel like there are similarities between our contexts and I would like to see if teaching practices and teaching listening, for example, are similar in our two different contexts. We're doing some comparative research. And then they may have some connections. So start to build this. Maybe I will spend a month focusing on overcoming this challenge. If it is not achieved in a month, or maybe even 3 weeks, move on. Then maybe this project is too soon because you don't want to spend so much time in something that it doesn't have a return in investment. You're investing time and energy. You want to see a return so that it encourages you to continue. If something is not working now, I'm not saying, give up, but put it on hold. Maybe something else needs to be done now for this to become easier in the future. Devising, scaffolding, and executing a plan. And that's important. You have to identify and prioritize. As I said, not everything has to be achieved right away. Ask leaders, ask people who have done some work, and you identify them as leaders that you would like to learn from. Ask them, how can I be like you? How can I be more involved like you are? Discuss with peers and peers that you trust. Choose people who support you, who will give you that push, who will encourage you to do something different. If you sit with someone and you talk with them and all they say, well, you know what, it's going to be difficult. I don't think this is too much. They're just putting you down. Move on. You don't have to challenge them. Just move on, find somebody else who will support you. Reflect, visualize, and reflect again. Reflecting about what you want to be and what you want to do and try to imagine it. Imagining this beautiful picture in your mind about your success is a very strong push to continue working when it's difficult, but you have this image of the end product at the end and how successful it will be. You strategize, find links and connections to people, to organizations, to resources. Identify new knowledge and skills and experiences that you need to have and find ways to learn them. That could be by taking a course, taking a training, listening to a webinar, going to a conference, again, asking a leader or a peer. Identify and build your alliances. And that is, again, similar to peers, people that you trust and you also can help and they can help you. Seek partnerships in your context and outside of your context, in your local and the international context. There's so much that we learn from each other if we just don't think of the borders between us as a barrier. present and practice. Presenting, when you present something, the more you talk about it, the more you realize, yeah, that was clear in my mind last night, is not clear today. Tomorrow when I present it, it will be much clearer because now I see where there are, and there is always a newer version of you presenting and practicing something. Research and publication are very important. It's not bad to be a good teacher, only a good teacher. It's great. But if you take that extra step of doing research in your classroom, publishing, you're not only putting yourself out there, putting your great work out there, but you're also helping someone else who is starting to learn something new from you, that without your publication, they wouldn't have seen it. And it doesn't have to be a theoretical publication. If this is not something you're interested in, let's something that is more practical. Lesson plan that was successful, and you really had an impact on your students, that is working. A school activity, doesn't have to be even the classroom, it's school activity that related to English, learning and practicing English, and you put this out there in a publication. Newsletters, TESOL local, national and internationals, are always a good place to publish about your practice. And the benefit of publishing a newsletter is that the readers of this newsletters are your peers. So people who will learn from you right away and take your ideas and practice them in their classroom. Now work and communicate. Don't miss an opportunity without telling people who you are and knowing who they are and making sure that you connect with them after that encounter. Learn to introduce yourself. Master the elevator speech, that very short speech. Who you are. People are busy. There are so many things going on in their life. So make sure that you practice, memorize, write it down. Who are you? When you introduce yourself, hello, my name is, and you say your name and you shake hands, make sure that you mention something that is unique about you. Not everything, because there is no time. People don't remember these things. You don't remember these things. So how can you expect people to remember? So what you want to do is make yourself memorable. Make sure to take their name, their card, take a picture of their badge at the convention, for example, or know their contact information. If you don't know the contact information, most people have their work emails public, so you can reach out to them. Make sure you say, yeah, I met you at this place. Remind them of who you are and that encounter, the short encounter, and make sure that you are in their email list. That happened to me when I was at my last conference that I was referring to earlier, and I met a colleague there who is a graduate student graduating this year. And 2 weeks after the conference, he sent me an email. And it happened to be at the same time I'm talking with a colleague about doing a research project that engaged different countries, colleagues from different countries. And it was right away. And now he is part of a team. It just happened because he made that effort of reaching out after that first encounter. This is me, my name. I went to your session. We talked about this topic. And I told you about my research. That's all I needed to remember him. Practice active listening. And active listening means that you're always attuned to what people are saying. Listen to them. Not when you listen to people, and I find myself to do this a lot, it's a practice that it's going to be my life learning experience. I will always be learning to do this. I'm practicing to do this. When people are talking, I'm thinking about my response. That's the worst place to be. When people talk, think about what they're saying. Think about, is it clear to you what they're saying or not? What can I ask to clarify this? And then when that piece happens, you have time to respond. And your response will always be valuable because you understood everything they're saying. And that's active listening. Few recommendations: engage in collaborative projects with native English speakers and non-native English speakers. It is to identify yourself as a professional who doesn't speak English as a first language, who is a non-native speaker of English, and be proud of ourselves. It does not mean that collaboration with native speakers of English is not a good thing. If anything, it is very good because it shows the world that we live in, our TESOL world, that we're equally professional. We're equal professionals who can collaborate on projects, mutually collaborate on projects. And that's a very important. It's also a learning experience from those colleagues because the teaching practice coming from different skill sets that they have. being a native speaker who understood something. I remember in my graduate school, one of the professors would walk into the classroom here in the US, walk into the classroom, and he would ask, who are the international students? And we would raise our hands. And he would look at who are the native speakers. And they would raise their hands. And he would look at them and say, well, look at those international students. If you want to learn about English grammar, these should be your friends. Because we learned that English grammar. We had to study it. Native speakers don't always study English, depending on their learning experience at, in K-12. So that was an experience that taught me, oh, we can actually contribute something. We can help our native speakers colleagues. Give conference presentations again, write articles and papers, form and or join the non-native English speakers IS in your local and national affiliate. If you don't have an NNEST-IS in your local community, and I know in our local communities, non-native speakers is not a big deal, but the issues are the same. Because we share the same, we face the same challenges when we, leave our small school and go to conferences and meet colleagues. We are the native speakers. So form this community so that you can address the issues within your community. Engage in events and activities that reflect your interests, needs, and wants. And again, do not go against your core values. Volunteer to mentor, network newcomers to the profession. TESOL has many, TESOL organization has many projects where, you can meet many opportunities where you can meet newcomers to the field. And people who are interested, who just started teaching, and reach out to those and become a mentor to them. And it is my experience that when you do that, you learn so much about yourself, about your teaching practices, about, oh, I thought this was working. And that new teacher who just started just asked me a question and I didn't answer it. Maybe I'm not really where I thought I was. Here's a learning opportunity for both of us to grow together. You can think of many other things. You can start small and grow big. And that's always the best way. Patience is the best. You want to be patient. You don't want to rush yourself because the outcomes are not something that will happen next year only. They will happen next year and continue for the years after. So you just want to have that patience. And from my experience, have people that will elevate you and help you grow. And here's my contact information. This is my email and my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to take a picture of this and contact me. Okay, I don't think I took the whole 45 minutes, but I think we did well.
Yeah, it was really great. Thank you so much, Doa. Thank you. We do have some time for questions and answers, like 10 minutes. So if people want, they can unmute themselves and ask those questions, or they can put them in the chat and I can read them for them, whatever they prefer. Jenny, do you have a question? I don't think that we can hear you. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much question, but thing is, what is happening in the TESOL leadership? Most of the time, we are thinking of the higher academic activities, like universities and something like the international level. But most of the time, we are neglecting the classroom, primary and the school level. I don't know exactly the teachers from the school, from schools. We can find most of the teachers, I don't know, because of they don't get opportunity to present the international conferences or write the articles for the magazines. So these are the issues between the higher education and the school education. Always there is a lot of gap. As a leader, how can we address this, Professor Dova?
Okay, I'll tell you my personal experience on this. If it's not working for you, create one for yourself. What country are you from, if I may ask?
I am from India. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a TESOL affiliation in India?
Yeah, we have very limited, 1 or 2 organizations are affiliate. Okay. We have there. Yes.
Okay. Is it possible to reach out to colleagues who have the same, concerns like you are, and together you can have a newsletter where you can publish best practices, share with colleagues. It's an email, it can go out. It's, usually most of those newsletters are electronic. Well, we don't have the printed one anymore, and share that.
Yeah.
I agree with you that there is so much to do to connect higher education with K-12 within either within our national or international. I can't speak to what TESOL, the organization, is doing right now. I can say that there is one of the recent initiatives is to look at the strategic plan, the practices. So maybe that would be a concern that they will address on the international level. But the international level is one of many levels. I mean, there is the local level, there is the national level. It could be within not even the whole country of India, just a small a region of India where the curriculum is similar, the teachers have the same challenges or the same barriers to the teaching, the teachers have the same concerns or similar concerns, and together you can have your own small organization. An organization doesn't have to have to be recognized for it to be effective. It can be 10, 15 teachers who meet on a Zoom once a month to talk about, some topic of interest to them, like a book club, but this is not a book club. Like, it's the same idea that people individually are active in creating their own support community. And this group would like to share what they have learned from this experience of meeting and talking and discussing ideas. Let's have a newsletter. And that newsletter will send it to all the teachers in the schools that we know, and then ask them to disseminate to others. And all of a sudden, you have a publication, you have authors, you have readers, and you can call your group any name you want that reflects what you're doing. And you don't need an international organization. And gradually, that will reach those who want to learn about this gap and your ways of actually you're filling this gap by doing this. I always think sometimes, don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. That's that's my advice.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I wanted to say thank you for reminding us about the newsletters and how important it is to read them, to get ideas, even to start building connections with people, see what they're doing, reaching out to them, and so on. So I was also going to add that maybe publishing in the existing newsletters, it's another option, right? Jenny, if you're interested, I would encourage you to try that as well.
And local, TESOL newsletters and different ISs have newsletters. They welcome publications from practitioners, from public school teachers, because again, these are their constituents. And if I'm writing something that is not interesting to the NNEST, for example, IS, and I publish it in the newsletter, it will not reach somebody who would learn from it. But if you're writing to the newsletter that, is interested in your topic, whatever topic that is, eventually you will reach an audience that is interested in what you're doing. Again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't publish in the TESOL, but if you try, I'd really try that. My experience with the existing newsletter and the TESOL association has always been positive. And people welcome publications. And maybe you can reach out to them with a publication about this, that concern that you have. This gap between K-12 and classroom practices and higher ed. That could be a paper to, a piece to publish.
Can I just comment just a moment? First of all, my name is Jeff Hutchison. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Policy for TESOL. And obviously I'm not a non-native speaker of English. Of course, some people in the United States say I am because I'm from the southern part of the United States. But a couple of things. Number one, I just do want to relay the fact, and Noah, thank you very much for pointing this out. If you are able to go to TESOL's website, the new website, it has our strategic direction and some of the projects we're working on that support multilingualism, that advocate globally and lift up across all TESOL's membership. And when we look at the professional councils, I know firsthand that the Research Professional Council is working on the next vision of the direction for research. And one of the things, first and foremost, is the connection between higher ed and K through 12 to get more involvement in that. And that's a difficult question because it's a very different context when you switch the levels of education there. So I just wanted to highlight that out and encourage everyone to look at the new website, the directions, things that we have there. And also a little plug. And one of my key interests in joining this conversation here, and Doa, thank you for pointing out in the context of leadership, the challenges faced with, quite frankly, it's the bias towards native speakers, the discrimination for non-native speakers. We have a position statement on that, but that's from 2006. And we're in the process of looking at providing better resources for a global context of advocacy. So whether it's K through 12 or higher ed, and we have listened to our affiliates around the world in this process. And one of the things that we are doing is strengthening our position papers so that whether you're in India or Peru or Mali or Japan or Michigan, that you have access to a resource that you can take and adapt for your context. And so the position paper on non-native English speaker bias is something that we're revisiting. I know that we had looked at it in 2019, but we didn't update it. And I may be calling out to this group, especially just for some support and help as we bring that paper up to date, get up to date data and make it more relevant for people's context. So sorry, I didn't mean to take too long. I just wanted two highlights here, though, about and especially Johnny, about your question on what TESOL is doing and the priorities that we have. And to let you know that it is there, and then also what we're working on specifically for this context and those challenges that you do face in leadership when you're facing, you don't look like me, so you don't sound like me. So you got that barrier. How do you face that? So just some tools that we can have. Now, hopefully, you don't sound like me. We all. Anyway,
if I may share, I just posted in the chat the link to the TESOL initiatives that are current initiatives that Jeff was referring to. If anybody would like to look at them.
Wonderful.
Thank you for sharing that, both of you. I think it's wonderful that you're revisiting all of these things.
Yes.
And excited to see what's coming out of it and what changes happen in the long term as well.
I didn't know that TESOL was looking into this statement in 2019, but I'm glad that you're revisiting it. I mean, the pandemic brought a lot of things and on a whole, to slow things down, but I'm glad that it's happening. Yeah. Thank you for doing this, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm not going to be doing it alone. I'll tell you that much. That's why I'll be reaching out and convening the experts in this area to make sure that we have. Our goal is to have a tool that's useful for people across the globe in their different contexts. So that's what we're looking for. And are you going to be at the New Jersey TESOL? You're in New Brunswick, right? At Rutgers?
My work is in New Brunswick, but I live in Maryland. I looked at their dates, but somehow I didn't really follow up on this. I remember our conversation at the TESOL convention. Yes.
Okay.
I'll look into it today.
No problem. I'm just curious.
No, I want to remember because I remember our conversation that after I came back from the TESOL convention, I looked into it, but then somehow I just didn't follow up with it.
Wonderful. Does anybody have any last minute questions? Our time is up, but
I'm happy
since
to
we
say
started late, we can take 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to thank you, Doa, again for this work. It was so practical, but so well informed as well. Um, somebody has a puppy around. And perhaps we can end with a reflection, since you ask us to be reflective as well as a place to continue using our influence, as well as Jeff is talking about, to try to make change, right? And try to accomplish that vision that we might have, specifically in TESOL and the non-native English speaker intersection. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here. I appreciate your time. And again, if there's anything that I can do from my end, I'm happy to help in any way. And Jeff, I will be reaching out to see if I can help with the your initiatives and your advocacy support of teachers, because I'm a teacher, so this is my home, and I'm happy to help in any way you see fit.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Recruiting people here.
My apologies for the dogs.
No
okay.
worries. I like, my cat is probably gonna come in a minute as well. So okay,
It's
well,
lunchtime for them, some of them.
yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Johnny, for your
thank you so much,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thank you, though.